So as you guys know, I've been buying a lot of young companies recently. A lot of them just barely IPO'd, and this is, I swear guys, it's not something I normally do, but for some reason this year, it feels like it's turning into a trend for me. I don't know why I've been doing it so much, but I've just been finding a lot of stocks that really interest me that recently IPO'd. And as if there couldn't possibly be any more to catch my interest, here comes Duolingo, which by the way is a company that is backed by Google, and man, they are looking so tempting that I really want to buy this one too. So we got to make a video about this company and their stock. We got to talk about it in today's video. It's going to be a fun one. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. What's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to my world of stocks. Now, we're going to talk about the company and I'll break down what they do and how they make their money and all that fun stuff. But you've probably heard of Duolingo by now. This is a company that is becoming very famous because of their very popular app, their application that you basically download on your phone, and it helps you learn a new language, and it does so in a very fun and engaging way. They implement games and other features to kind of keep you coming back and making a lot of progress for learning a new language in a short amount of time. And this is something that is, like I said, really growing in popularity. I myself know a lot of friends and family that have actually used it, and they all say really good things about it. But one of the really cool things about Duolingo is that you can use it absolutely for free, which makes it a really good alternative to spending like hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars on a college class just to learn a language. And this is obviously a lot more convenient because you just do it with your smartphone on your own time, wherever you are. So Duolingo, I think, has a very good opportunity here to be very disruptive in this market. And because of that, it has become one of the most talked about stocks in the market right now. So anyway, let's talk about that business. We'll see how much they're growing and where I think they're headed in the future, how disruptive I think they'll be in online education and the different kind of avenues they can take to tap into even more growth. And of course, we'll talk about the stock and how that stacks up against the valuation. We'll see if it's a good kind of long-term investment at today's prices, or if it's just too expensive to touch, which does typically tend to be the case with these kind of hot new IPO stocks. So we're going to talk about all of that. And of course, as always, I'll let you know if I plan to buy the stock myself anytime soon. Let's just jump straight into this. Okay, well, starting with their business, let me just quickly explain what they do and how they make their money. So this is a company that was co-founded in 2011 by Luis von Ahn, with the official Duolingo app launching the next year in 2012. And the reason I mentioned the co-founder Luis is because he seems to have a pretty close relationship with Google, which could be very helpful for them in the future in terms of Google helping them scale up in size. See, back in 2009, Google purchased reCAPTCHA from Luis, which is that security tool used by a ton of different websites now. You've probably seen it. It's a very annoying thing to go through, but a lot of websites use it. And after that, Google decided to once again return to Luis and invest in Duolingo. Currently, Google owns 13%, making them the largest outside investor in the company, which I think is a huge deal. Google is definitely the company you want backing you if your business revolves mostly around an application, mobile application. Speaking of which, what exactly are the products and how does Duolingo monetize them? Well, there's basically three services as of now. One is the Duolingo ABC app that is targeted specifically towards kids and helping them learn how to read. The second is their standard Duolingo app that primarily focuses on teaching people a new language. And what really sets it apart is that it does it in a much more fun and interactive way. So they incorporate things like games and challenges and even leaderboards so that people are enticed to come back and keep playing and of course keep learning. It's definitely a good way of making your business a lot stickier, and that's led to over 40 million monthly active users, which is a number that continues to grow every year. And so now might be a good time to mention how they monetize all of this, and that's through either short and non-intrusive advertisements at the end of each lesson. And the other is through paid subscribers, where you basically pay a monthly fee of around $7 to get rid of those ads. And despite paid subscribers only making up less than 5% of all their users, it still generates over 70% of their sales, with advertisements only making up less than 20%, despite more than 95% of users being free. And the rest is generated by their English test that I'll cover in just a second. But guys, this is a huge deal because it basically means that the vast majority of their sales come from only 5% of all their users. That means that there is gigantic room for growth here, and from two different sources. One is to just convince more people to sign up for the premium membership, which would dramatically increase their revenue. And the other is to just start increasing their advertisement prices, which don't even affect customers. The cost would just be passed on to the corporations that choose to advertise on their platform. And they're probably charging pretty small fees if, 95% of their customers are watching those ads, and yet it barely generates, like less than 20% of the revenue. That tells me those ad prices can probably go way up over time. And I'll come back to the growth opportunities in just a second, but just trust me, guys, this is a business model that can experience a ton of growth just organically from simply executing on what they already have. That's very promising. And then finally, I'll just mention that last part of their sales that makes up around 10% of revenues, and that's their English proficiency exam, which costs only around $50 to take. It can be taken online at any time and anywhere in the world. It only takes 1 hour to complete, and it is accepted by over 3,000 institutions, including huge universities like Yale, Duke, Stanford, and Georgia Tech, just to name a few, which if they keep going this route, offering classroom-like services that are astronomically cheaper and much more convenient, you're going to see Duolingo grow to a much larger company over time, which is exactly what they aim to do, as their mission statement is to develop the best education in general and make it accessible to everyone in the world. And they already have plans to do that with other subjects too, like math and science. And of course, they're already doing literacy with the Duolingo ABC app as well. Anyway, this is a giant market opportunity because even if we just look at language learning alone, which we know is not going to be all that they do, but even if we ignore the potential of math and science and other things and just look at language alone, you're already talking over 1.8 billion people actively learning a new language, which is about 1 in every 4 people right now. And it's also more than all of the students in the entire world, according to Holland IQ research, which they state that this is arguably the world's largest cohort of learners, and it's one that is only just now discovering digital options for learning. As a result, they project that the direct-to-consumer language learning market will double by 2025, growing from $60 billion to $115 billion. To give you some context on how big of an opportunity this is for Duolingo, they only did less than $0.2 billion in sales in all of last year. So you're talking unbelievable amounts of room to grow if they're able to be a market leader, which they're already doing a pretty good job of striving for right now. According to their 2020 Global Language Report, Duolingo has already become the most downloaded education app in the entire world with over 500 million total downloads, and it is also the top grossing education app on both iOS and Android as well. As a result, sales have been skyrocketing every year by around 100% or more, and that's likely to continue for a while given the large future potential. Meanwhile, like other young tech companies, Duolingo is not yet profitable on a net income basis, having lost over $15 million last year. However, operating cash flow was slightly positive in 2019, then it grew to even more last year and is now a little higher as well in the past 12 months. So yes, on a net income basis, when you account for various other non-cash expenses, they do struggle a bit, but just on a fundamental, like day-to-day business level, this is a company that is actually profitable. And even if you take it a step further down to free cash flow, which is oftentimes a preferred measure of profitability anyway, even over net income, they were at a slight loss in 2019, but that quickly improved to a profit of over $13 million last year and over $14 million in the past 12 months. So again, this is a company that is absolutely headed in the right direction. They are not really that far away from profitability. What about this stock though? I think we've definitely established here that this is a very strong company with an excellent business model that is already performing very well and still has a lot more room to grow in the future. But what is that valuation looking like for the stock, and does it make any sense right now? Is this something that is affordable as a long-term investment, or like many other hot growth stocks in the market, is it just way too expensive to be touching at the moment? Let's take a closer look. Now, technically, the stock IPO'd at $102 a share, which over 12,000 people that use Robinhood were able to buy it at using that new early IPO access feature on Robinhood. But the rest of us really saw it start trading closer to around 140 by the time we were really able to start kind of buying shares in general. So I guess there's a couple different ways that you could look at this. On one hand, the stock has already climbed by almost 35% from that technical IPO price, which is kind of scary. But on the other hand, the more general price was somewhere around 140, which means that the stock has actually kind of gone down a few dollars since then. But either way though, no matter how you look at it, the stock has mostly been jumping around since the IPO, at one point reaching as high as $152 a share, which now leaves them below the midpoint of their 52-week range and down over 10% from those highs. But is this a good price to jump in? Well, like I said before, they're not currently profitable on a net income basis, so we'll have to look at sales instead for valuing the stock. And here we can see that they have a price to sales ratio of almost 23, which is definitely very high. I think something like Facebook, which is a giant social media king and is extremely profitable, they only trade for a PS ratio of like less than 10. So it is a little scary there for that valuation. But personally, I don't really care. Yes, there are definitely safer stocks to buy out there like Facebook and others, but there's also a ton to like about Duolingo as well. And when you're growing your sales by triple digit percentages every year, that price to sales ratio can come down very quickly. Also, valuing this type of stock based on a price to sales ratio is probably a mistake. I think this is a company that will one day be very profitable with software like margins, and that should really be the main focus, is that long-term profitability. Unfortunately, the only thing that I really don't like about Duolingo's business model is that because it is primarily focused around having an application, you're going to have the app stores like the Apple App Store and the Google Play for Android. They're going to be taking a cut of their sales, and that's going to be a long-term kind of drag on their business because it's something that I really don't see going away anytime soon. So that's going to be a headwind for them. But that's literally like the only con I see with Duolingo. That's the only thing that I really don't like about their business, because everything else looks fantastic. I know that they're technically not profitable on a net income basis, but when you're growing your sales at such a high rate like this, you have to reinvest your profits back into the business to scale it up and to keep growing your users, and then monetize them over time, and then worry about profits later on. So this is not a company that should be focused on profits now. It's a long-term play that will eventually be very profitable. And speaking of reinvesting profits back into the business, in fact, Duolingo more than doubled their research and development expenses last quarter and more than quadrupled their sales and marketing expenses, meaning that they're literally reinvesting every single penny that they earn, or at least almost every penny that they earn, back into the business and accumulating more and more users. And again, that's a huge deal because, like we said before, only around 5% of their users are actually paid subscribers. So there's huge room for growth there because you're going to keep growing your users, which only a small percent of them are paid, yet they make up the majority of your sales. There's huge potential there to convert those users into paid users and generate much more sales. And then the rest, all you got to do is monetize them with digital advertisements. And that's something that you can easily do over time. Increase your advertising prices, and that will scale up too. So this is a business that I think is really solid and it has a ton of potential. And I also think that they have a very strong moat, a competitive advantage, because they're already essentially the market leader here, and they're going to become larger and larger over time. And yes, there are many competitors. I was reading actually a report that said that there was like thousands of other like language learning apps out there, but have you guys heard of any of them? I certainly haven't heard of them. The only one I've ever heard of is Duolingo, and it's clearly the most popular one. It's clearly the one that everyone is using. And the reason why I don't think a competitor will ever really dethrone them is because Duolingo already offers a free version. So what is a competitor going to do to steal their users? What are they going to say? Oh, we'll charge you less? They already offer a free version. You can't charge less than Duolingo because Duolingo literally charges you nothing if you use the free version. So I think they have a really strong moat. I think that they're going to be a market leader. I don't see anyone dethroning them. The only kind of competitive risk that I see here is from schools and colleges and universities, because some of them do have kind of their own apps, or they can exclusively choose to partner with other ones, and that could hurt Duolingo and maybe steal some of their market share. But in the end, I just don't think that that's going to be such a big deal. I think that this is a much bigger play than just colleges and universities. I think this is for the average person, and you've still got so many other areas that you can tap into, like math and science and all kinds of other stuff. And by the way, Duolingo offers tools and features for teachers also to implement into their classes. So you're even going to have classrooms potentially using Duolingo and implementing it in their own kind of class structures too. So I just see so much potential with this one. This is a stock that I'm going to have to buy myself. Now, this is a long-term buy. This is going to be a volatile stock. It is very expensive. So I'm only going to go in small, like I typically do with these type of stocks. I go in very small, and then I add to it over time. And I can add to it one of two ways. Either the company becomes the company continues to perform extremely well, and their business improves over time, which makes me feel more confident in paying such a high price tag for the stock. So then I add more over time that way. Or the stock price drops, which could happen because I think this is going to be a volatile stock, or even if there's a market correction or anything like that. Expensive stocks like these always get crushed during market corrections and crashes, and I actually do think a market correction is coming. So that's why I buy very small right now, and then if the stock falls, then I can go in and buy a lot heavier. So one of two ways that I can add to it over time, but eventually I can turn this into a bigger position. I just like to start out small because it dramatically lowers my risk and it doesn't damage my portfolio so much if something happens and the stock crashes, which is a very real possibility. But as a long-term investment, I like it. I'm going to take a chance on them. We'll see what happens. So it'll be very small, like I said. Probably only going to be a couple percentage points of my overall portfolio when I build out my whole position, but it's one that I'm gonna be kind of gambling on a little bit here. It's a spec stock because they're not technically profitable, but it's one that I like. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Duolingo. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if you're interested in it, if you're investing in it, or if you're bearish on it. And by the way, if you are bearish on it, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because a lot of times, there's things that I might not think of. And even with all of my investments, I'm not one of those people that only likes to hear good things about my stocks. I like to hear all the negatives too, because if I miss something, that's something I should know. So if there's a bearish viewpoint that you have on it and you make a compelling argument, let me know, because it might even change my opinion on it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know. And anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate all the support. I will catch you in the next one. Take care. Hit that like button, by the way, please, if you don't mind. And I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.